Oh, cheat day, baby. Oh, this smells so good. Oh. Oh man, no tissues? Okay, here we go. The first ever Maserati Grecale. It is the new addition to the Maserati lineup. And today we're going to review it, show you everything you need to know about it, most importantly take it for a spin. Special thanks for this video goes to our great friends at Maserati of Toronto. They're a Maserati dealership and Alfa Romeo located in the heart of Toronto, in the luxurious Yorkville. If you're from Toronto, you know it. They were kind enough to allow me to borrow this for the weekend, test drive it, and show you everything you need to know about them. And most importantly, this video, it is not sponsored in any way by this dealership. These are my thoughts. This, of course, is our own video. If you want to know more about them, the link will be in the description box, because the one that you see over here, it is a demo. So you can take it for a test drive if you are interested in the new Maserati Grecale. Let us begin with the name. Why is it called the Grecale? If you remember, Maserati also offers the Levante. And the Grecale name comes technically from the same theory, which is from the winds of the Mediterranean. You see, the Mediterranean has different winds and they have different names, and some come from Italian, Greek, and Latin, and so on. And specifically, the Grecale is one of them. You see, you have north, south, east, west. I'm trying to get this right. And then there's like northeast, southeast, and so on. The Grecale, it is the northeast wind. Hence why this is called the Grecale. Which means the Maserati is left with 6 other names to use from the Mediterranean winds. The next thing I want to talk to you about is the key. You see, it is different in comparison to the Levante. The current Levante now is a bit more boxy. Most importantly, still comes with the cover, and you have the buttons visible on the outside. You can remove the silicone cover. It's mostly to protect the key fob, and you have the Maserati crest. But what I love about it is the fact that the buttons are smooth. So they're sort of like pushed in, engraved kind of buttons, but easy to use. Let's move on to the front end design. Absolutely love how this thing looks. Most importantly, we have the Maserati design. We got the crest in the front, very similar to the Levante. The front end is such lower at the bottom, more aggressive, more sporty, and luxurious. The headlights, love how these things are designed. The interior specific, we got the crest on the side, the Maserati letters, love how they look. Someone said that this looks like the Jaguar E-Pace, and honestly, I can see that, a bit of that design because of the headlights. Maybe the Ford Puma, but I'd say probably the Jag. Now let's move on to the side over here. Let's talk about what it offers. We have the signature design for the side fender. For example, the vents over here, you've seen that in the Levante. We have the Modena badge blacked out at the top so that you know that this is the Modena trim. It is equipped with 21-inch wheels, and these wheels have a specific name, Pegasus, and they're complemented by these beautiful red calipers with the Maserati logo on the side. Absolutely love how these wheels look, and the whole package over here. The door handles, flat, love that. These are pretty much powered, so you have a button located inside, you press that and bang on. Now these are not equipped with a soft closing like the Levante, so keep that in mind. I love the beautiful design of this thing. But then you get closer to the back side, this profile here, If you know the Levante, this looks similar to that. And we have the beautiful Maserati crest blacked out at the side. Love the little touches in this thing. Move on to the back side. This is where it gets pretty interesting. Again, a bit of that Levante design, which is okay. The tail lights, I was told, were inspired by the Maserati 3200 GT. I can see a bit of that. We have the Grecale name on the side here. And then if you look at this chrome finish, very similar to the Levante. I remember this design specifically, then the Maserati logo all the way across. Moving to the bottom side over here, quad exhaust tips, blacked out. We have this blacked out diffuser as well. Love how this thing looks, very sporty, very aggressive. The entire design here is beautiful, love that. Now let's pop the trunk. Powered, of course, easy to use. Space-wise, as you can see, I have my camera equipment. There's a lot of space in here that you can use. Now, this is not a full-size SUV. It's more so like the mid-level. Then underneath here, we don't have a spare tire, but you get all the tire equipment stuff. And most importantly, you got the Maserati genuine accessories with this beautiful blue bag. Love that. Into the second row. Love the interior of this thing. First of all, space. Headroom, you get a bit of headroom. I've set the seat in front as if I'm the driver, so that way you get better idea of how much space you get overall. I'm 6'2". I'm taller than the average individual. I got leg room. The seat is carved in a way that you get these pockets so that it gives you more leg room. In terms of the leather, thick leather here. I love the stitching. There's a crest on top of the headrest. Love the little touches. There's stitching all over here. The leather feels very thick and good quality, not cheap. Door panel has leather too. Then you have the wood trim. There's a speaker on the side here. This is powered by Sonos Faber. The audio system overall, you can get 14 speakers or 21 speakers if you want to increase the quality. The door panel has a button over here to open the door. In terms of tech features, what do you get? USB-C, USB port as well. There's no heated seats in the back. Bit disappointing there. There's a panoramic roof all the way across to bring that brightness and brighten up the interior. Space overall is great. It's better than I would say in the Porsche Macan. That's one example. Feels a bit more spacious in here in the second row. I love the leather. I love everything about here, minus the fact that it doesn't have heated seats. Now, let's jump into the front. Let's talk about that beautiful area that this offers, that beautiful interior for the driver and the passenger in the front. I love this. Minus one thing, and I'm going to share something with you. When I picked up this Grecale from the dealership, I sat inside, I started up, the button is on the left, easy to find because it has that Alfa Romeo spirit that you have the switches, the toggles underneath the buttons here, easy to use. Driving modes starting on the left side. One thing I had a problem with this is trying to find where the drive lever or buttons as they are nowadays. I couldn't find it, so I'm sitting inside the car and I'm looking around trying to figure out where are these buttons. It's a true story. It took me about 5 minutes to figure out that they're there. And that became normal the second day when I got in and I know exactly where it is. So that was my first experience jumping into the Grecale, is trying to figure out where the gear lever or buttons were. The interior, very different here in comparison to the Levante. This is a bit more premium, a bit more advanced. We got screens now, massive heads-up display as well. We have a 12.3-inch infotainment display, an 8.8-inch screen here for the climate unit and other features. There's a massive cluster as well that shows you quite a lot of information. We have these beautiful paddle shifters here, finish in aluminum metal touch. I love that. They don't feel cheap, but they're not attached to the steering wheel. They're actually attached to the steering column because, as you know, Maserati is owned by Stellantis. Therefore, it has those buttons at the back for the volume and for the seeker if you want to use it for the radio, which gives space to the other buttons over here. We have a wireless charging pad underneath this climate over here. As you see, the climate screen into the center area. You pull this thing like a book. It gives you more space. We have a USB-C and a USB port. wood finish trim, love that. 2 cup holders in here. You have an armrest that gives you more space with the Maserati crest in the middle. So you look down and you're like, oh, wait, that's a Maserati. The leather interior, love it. The dashboard, I love the leather feeling, like the thickness. The red as well, black and red, or shall we say rosso and nero. Now, let's get into the details. Specifically, we'll start with the infotainment. One thing you notice here is how familiar this user interface looks. Why? Because it is used in the new Grand Cherokee L and other Jeep or Chrysler or, for example, Dodge vehicles. Then you look into the settings, very similar as well. You got built-in apps. It has Apple CarPlay wirelessly and Android as well, like I am right now connected. Look at that. Beautiful screen, not too big. There's different settings that you can play around here. It has a surround camera. Beautiful quality, you can change a lot of that to give you better visibility. I love it. Then if you look, built-in weather as well, Wi-Fi hotspot. There's a lot of things that you can play around. So there's Alexa built in as well. You go into the vehicle, there's extra settings. Into my car, shows you tire pressure, oil level, and so on. This has a mild hybrid engine, so it gives you an idea where the power is transferred to the battery or the motor. Into performance, I love this. You get the gauges, but then you go into this one here, drag race, in case if you want to find out your 0 to 100 or 0 to 60 if you live in the US. And you keep going down there. If you want to take this off-road, because this is equipped with air ride, you can raise the vehicle. We have the gauges here, oil, transmission, battery, and so on. Then you move on to the controls for the screen. There's more settings that you can play around, from lights to the brakes, brake service, suspension system, if you want to change a lot of settings in here, if you want different notifications. And look at this, there's so much that you can play around. I don't want to go through everything in here because it will be, well, let's just say 20 minutes just to go through everything, just to give you an idea exactly what you get. Now let's jump underneath here with the climate screen. This is not just for the climate. You got your heated seats, ventilated for both sides as well. You can change a lot of settings, but you also get extra features. So for example, the ambient light, you can change the colors here. And I'm shocked that these are not in Italian, they're in English. They forgot about that part. Then you go into height. As I mentioned previously, air ride, you can change the ride. Then move on to the seats over here. You have the memory seats for the passenger or the driver. And then you go into the headlights. This is easy access for your headlights. You can put them in auto. Always leave it in auto. Why? Because at nighttime they turn on automatically. Seems like people don't get this. This is how this thing works. You leave it in auto, you don't have to worry about them. Next thing I love about this is the analog clock. They used to be, now it is fully digital, but you see it comes with extra features. So for example, the clock itself, you can change this from sport to classic and then design. Pretty cool. What I love in sport is that if you look at these red dots over here, those are the seconds. And then as the seconds move, the dots or lines in this case move. I love the little touch. You go back into there, you can change it. You don't want it to be a clock, you go into compass. Then you go into pedal. So this one, it will tell you, okay, you're hitting the brake, that's the power. Or G meter, you want to take this around the track, you want to see the G force? Well, you get that option. I usually keep it in this, I like it. Or sometimes I do that, but mostly I put it in sport. I love the little details. Okay, quick launch control. That sounds so good. 2-liter, 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, of course, with the 48 mild hybrid. It makes 325 brake horsepower, but that's for the Modena. The GT makes about 300 horsepower. And most importantly, this is equipped with an 8-speed ZF transmission. The only time this car sounds good is when it's under load, because if it's not under load, it doesn't sound that good. Like there's not much of that exhaust sound that you want, that aggressive sound when you're just sitting and revving it. It sounds okay, but it sounds a lot better and especially in manual under load. Downshift. I like that. I like that. At least it has real exhaust tips, not fake. You can also get the Trofeo, which uses the same engine as the MC20, a V6 twin turbo, which is similar to what they also use for the Alfa Romeo Giulia and the SUV version Quadrifoglio. There's also going to be an option for a full EV, which is called the Grecale Folgore. That's pretty much full EV, but it's not available yet to purchase. So at this point, you only get the GT, the Modena, and the Trofeo. This will do 0 to 60 in about 5 seconds, or 0 to 100 in about 5.2 seconds, which is not that bad. It's not far off from its competitors. The biggest competitors to this model are the BMW X3, the Mercedes GLC, maybe the Volvo XC40 or the XC60 in that case. But I think the main competitor is the Porsche Macan, because within that price range and also that luxury and sportiness at the same time. And I also spoke to the dealers, specifically Maserati of Toronto, who confirmed that a couple of customers actually are trying to compare the Macan to this. And I think that's probably the biggest competitor to this car. The Modena is also equipped with the adaptive air suspension system with skyhook dampers. You change the modes, it also raises and lowers the vehicles, pretty standard in most air ride vehicles with some sporty adaptive suspension system. Now let's talk about the pricing, because that's where it gets pretty interesting, and it could be pretty pricey, depends on the model. In Canada, the base model GT starts at $75,000, about $1,000 less than the Porsche Macan or so. Then you have the Modena, which is the one that we have for today's video, that starts at MSRP at $85,000. And you can go all the way to Trofeo, which is $129,000. The one that we have, that we're currently driving right now, is fully loaded, and it was MSRP at about a 101, which means for Canada this year, you get to pay luxury tax because it's over $100,000 brand new. I think the luxury tax on this one was about $1,900. So if you're looking at 100 grand, $1,900 more for most people, well, let's just say it's not gonna be a huge difference. In the US, the Modena starts at about $72,900. The GT is about $63,000. Meanwhile, the Trofeo, it's $102,000. The pricing is shockingly not as steep or as expensive as I expected this to be, because if you take in consideration it is a Maserati, which means it comes with a name, it comes with a lot of things attached to it. So people that I spoke to, they all thought this was going to be about 150, 160 grand Canadian. It gives you the impression that this is much bigger when you see it in person. When you see it in photos, it looks very small. In person, it looks a lot bigger. The back side of this looks very much like the Levante. Now let's talk about some of the things that I like and things that I don't like about this. First of all, I wish this would have come with that rear view mirror, because the back side, it is a coupe, therefore you're not getting the best visibility. The seat height is a little bit high for me as a driver. In sport mode, the suspension is not too stiff, which I very much like. I keep it usually somewhere in comfort, and sometimes if I want to have some fun or have a stiffer ride, I just put the suspension in sport mode. The exhaust note under load, I like it. It's like bang, bang, skeet, skeet. Especially in manual mode. It's a 2-cylinder, so don't expect this to be extremely loud. Unless you want it louder, you can probably go for the V6, which is a lot more money. Visibility around this area, second doors and the front, is not that bad. It's actually better around me here as a driver, but the second doors, because again, as a coupe, they don't get the best, well, large windows in this case. Now let's talk about the driver assistance package, because this one comes with. It will keep you within the lanes, but it will not necessarily keep you straight. What I mean with that, it's not actively steering for you. In fact, I tried it last night a few times. What it does is that if you go into the left too far to the left, it will push you into the middle. If you go too far to the right, it will push you into the middle. So it basically helps you without crashing into other cars, which is what most people need. But if in comparison to other models where they just constantly steer for you, I find this a little bit better because it's easier for me to be active and focus on the road instead of just letting the car do the job. Now, technically, you need to keep, most countries or states or provinces, you need to keep your hands on the wheel so you don't crash. That's the idea. Legally, you're supposed to do that. So in this case, you got to keep your hands on it. In terms of the noise inside, it's quiet. The only thing I hear is the engine most of the time. I don't hear the road. I don't hear the wind as much. You can have a comfortable conversation with someone on the side. I like that. It does have that premium feeling. The audio system is not one of the best I've heard, but it does a great job. It is premium, it has a good bass and so on. The problem with audio system is that unless you're sitting in here listening with me, I can't really show it to you or explain it because you need to feel the bass, you need to feel everything else that comes with it. I like this. I like what Maserati, Stellantis in this case, has done with this. This thing was built, designed in Italy. In fact, the audio chimes were developed with Maserati engineers and an Italian music writer to give you a different experience when you're inside. And you notice that right away. It's very different from other Maseratis that I've driven before. I like the interior. I like how it drives. And I think for the money, you're getting quite a lot. Many people will have that question that, but can I just get something from Dodge, for example, or a Jeep, where I can get it pretty much for the same money, in some cases, less money in some cases. Here's the thing though, with this brand, you're not just getting a car, you're getting an entire experience from the dealership all the way to the driving part. So that's something to keep in mind. And it's not just the tech features, it comes with a lot of prestige as well. To some, maybe that's not an issue or they just don't care, but a lot of people do. I think they're going into a good direction with this one, and I'm hoping that the Stellantis family continues that with the Levante and other Maseratis, because those cars do need a desperate upgrade or update, whatever you want to call it, in and out. I like what they've done with this. I really do.